Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to my second episode of Mindfulness Mondays. Today I'm going to be sharing some tips with you for mindful communication. Tip number 1, be present. That sounds so much easier than it is. We've got a million things distracting us at all times. We've got our phones going off, we've got our kids asking for things, email notifications, Instagram, what have you. So really strive to give the person your full undivided attention. And if you find yourself getting distracted, if you find yourself starting to drift from the conversation, simply just bring yourself back and bring your attention back to the conversation that you're having. Tip number 2, really listen. So oftentimes we are not fully listening to the other person we're having a conversation with. So what does that mean? When the person is talking, really listen to what they are actually saying and wait for them to finish talking before responding. What happens 99% of the time is that when someone is talking, we start to think about what we're going to say in response to what they're saying. We're not fully listening to what it is that they are saying to us. So challenge yourself to really listen, and then when you respond, try rephrasing what the person just said to you to confirm that you actually understand what they said. Because we are all so unique and we come from different backgrounds and different experiences, we're often going to interpret things that are said in different ways. So I will give you an example of this. Let's say you're at work and your boss says, you took an unusually long break today. One way of interpreting this is that I'm being attacked and I'm being punished. A second way of interpreting this would be, this is just a friendly reminder from my boss that I maybe need to stop taking such long breaks. A third interpretation could be that maybe my boss is concerned that I took a long break. Maybe my boss is concerned that maybe something is going on with my health. So you can see how one phrase can be taken so many different ways. And then also we haven't even added in the tone and how the boss said this line. So there's so many different ways to interpret things. That's why it is so important to make sure you are constantly checking in with the person you're talking to and making sure that you are getting the correct meaning from what they say. Oftentimes, this leads to a lot of arguments in relationships because you're dealing with two different people who come from completely different backgrounds. So one person can say something, and because they say it with a certain tone, the other person is now triggered by that, and it turns into this complete argument when the original message was never even intended in that way. That brings me to the tip number 3, which is always to strive to communicate from a state of love. What does that mean exactly? It's okay to have a disagreement. That's inevitable. Disagreements are going to happen. What we want to strive to do is focus on the issue at hand, not personally attacking each other. One way to do this is to avoid using absolutes. You want to avoid using words like always, never, rarely. This is an easy way to start an argument that can be avoided. Let's say maybe you're feeling frustrated that you feel like you're not getting a lot of help around the house with cleaning. If you start that conversation by saying you never help around the house, most likely the person's going to feel attacked and less likely to listen to what you have to say after that. So really focus on how you're feeling about the situation versus what the person is doing wrong. So instead of saying you never help around the house, try saying, I feel alone with all the housework around here. I'd really appreciate it if we could work together as a team to keep the house clean. There's a shift from me putting it on the other person and focusing on how can we do this together and how can we resolve this problem together, and I'm focusing on how I feel about it. Tip number 4 is self-love. And what does that mean? This is so huge. We all have negative thoughts and negative stories that we've told ourselves. For example, I'm not likable, or I'm not cut out for this job, or I'm not fit to be a parent. These are all false stories that we've told ourselves, and we really have to evaluate where these are coming from and if they are absolutely true. Most of the time, these are not based in truth. They're based in fear and self-doubt. So when we can start to recognize what these false stories are and dismiss them, it allows us to really receive the messages that are being given to us when we're communicating versus misinterpreting it because we're getting defensive or we're taking things personal. So it really helps to eliminate these false beliefs so that you're more open and available to receive what's being given to you. The key here with mindful communication is to strive to be self-aware, really opening up yourself to communicate from a place of love instead of self-judgment and judgment of others. When you can do that, you are able to receive the love in return. If you are interested in receiving more tips for mindfulness communication, make sure to hit the subscribe button below so you can get notifications every single week for Mindfulness Mondays. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and I'll see you next week.